Well, hello again, everyone. I wanted to speak a little more in depth about what I covered yesterday, which is the champagne versus sparkling wine. And of course, I had to put on my little French scarf. So, bonjour, comment ça va? All right, so we're going to go into a little more detail. One of the things I wanted to let you know is that the difference in method of how each is made is also very important. So champagnes, quality champagnes, and some sparkling wines too, are made by what you call méthode champenoise. And what méthode champenoise is secondary fermentation. And the important thing is that the secondary fermentation must be done in the bottle. This is where sugar is added to the yeast and in a mixture called liqueur de tirage. When it is added and then it is capped, it is put in the bottle. After you add that, you put the mixture in the bottle and you put a cap on it, a cap similar to a beer bottle, not the cage as yet. So they put it in a beer bottle and it sits there, and the yeast act on the sugar, and then when that happens, the carbon dioxide, which is the bubbles, is formed, and then that is left to be trapped, to remain in the bottle until it's time to cork it. Sometimes the yeast is left for 6 months, better quality sometime up to 6 years. After that happens, then is when you remove the bare looking cap and put on the cage and the cap. That becomes the traditional champagne bottle opener. If the secondary fermentation happens in the tank, that's a cremate, and that is usually what you will find with Prosecco and Lambrusco. Those are the ones from Italy. All right, so, and usually the cremates are usually a lesser quality, not 100%, so don't start writing me now, but usually they're a little sweeter and a little less quality than, say, when the secondary fermentation happens in the bottle, which is usually the higher quality champagnes and sparkling wines. The thing about champagne also, the smaller the bubbles is usually a higher quality wine. Okay, another thing I wanted to touch on briefly in terms of champagnes too. People ask about vintage versus non-vintage. Vintage is when the grapes come from the harvest, same year, one harvest. And the non-vintage is when they comes from different year harvest. Okay, so that's pretty much the difference. In vintage, 1 year, the same year, all the grapes come from that harvest. And with the non-vintage, the grapes can come from different year harvest. Another thing someone asked me about brut. What brut usually mean? It has little or no residual sugar. Extra brut, same thing, no sweetness at all. Then you have extra sec, which would be extra dry, and that speaks for itself. And then if you see sec on the bottle, it means dry again. And if you see something like demi-sec, it's going to mean medium dry. And doux, I hope I'm pronouncing it right, mean sweet, which would be D-O-U-X, in case I'm not getting it right in the pronunciation. The spelling is there. Okay, so those are some of the other little things I wanted to touch on champagne versus sparkling wine today. Okay, so again, guys, there's people that have a preference for champagne versus sparkling versus Prosecco versus Cava. To each his own. And don't think because it's champagne from Champagne region in France, that means it has to be so much superior to another sparkling wine, which is also made in the same méthode champenoise, which is the most important thing, guys, is the method by which it is made, and the fact that the secondary fermentation happens in the bottle versus in the tank. Okay, cheers, au revoir.